I've been watching this since I started writing my book. So the national debt clock is something that I've been following very closely. I don't think Don has been viewing me for a decade, so he doesn't realize that I was doing this. And in my book, I wrote on March 16th, 2007, Congress passed a bill to increase the ceiling on the national debt from 8.2 trillion to 9 trillion. These seem like such small numbers now.
They're like quaint numbers now, exactly.
Right. But as I'm writing this, just a few months later, the debt is already 8.98 trillion. And Congress has just approved the fifth increase on the debt ceiling in the last 6 years, raising it to 9.8 trillion. This 850 billion increase should last another few months, and it's entirely possible that the national debt could surpass 10 trillion by the end of 2008. Well, it was like 10.8 trillion. So I was being very conservative here in my book. When I read my book, actually, it sounded outrageous when I read it, and people are saying impossible, but everything turned out to be extremely conservative. When I go to the next page in the book here, talking about the national debt, I talk about unfunded liabilities. The national, but that's the national debt. Let me see. This means that a newborn baby in the U.S. Comes into the world owing approximately $30,000 back then. But that's only what the baby owes for our reckless deficit spending in the past, debt. What about the reckless deficit spending promised to future generations like Social Security and Medicare? Then there's a section on unfunded liabilities. And Michael Hodges used to run the grandfather economics report, just a very concerned grandfather, and he would add up all of these things. And Hodges, it says in here, Hodges has gone even further than analyzing debt as just unfunded liabilities. Instead, he's taken all of the state and local and government debt, household debt, business sector debt, plus financial sector debt, and added them all together. How big is the problem? It was then 160 trillion. That was a long time ago. And so that it means that even a newborn baby is born into the world owing $550 million. And then it says, welcome to the world, kid. Here's the bill.
We shouldn't be laughing at this, but...
Well, I mean, it's just insane. And these are numbers, I was writing this in 2006 or 2007. So this is 2007. And then I got a chance to revise some of the numbers just before the book came out, I think about April of 2008. And then, I did a 2015 update. And it's interesting, when we were filming Hidden Secrets of Money, I was standing under the national debt clock in New York City. And it's right above the IRS office there. So here's the place you pay your taxes, and then this is how fast the government is spending it. And then and more, because it exceeds, this is the number up above that IRS office was the amount that exceeds, the cumulative amount that exceeded the amount that the IRS took in our taxes. And so anyway, we had, in the time it took to edit the episode, there was like $3 trillion more added to the national debt. And we had to go in, and Dan they did a brilliant job of it. I don't know if it was Aiden. It was probably Aiden that did this, but he pasted in the correct numbers over the numbers that were now $3 trillion out of date in the time it took us to edit that episode. So I want to go to the a chart that I just made of federal debt, total public debt. But this chart, it's quarterly information, and the last report is Q3 of last year. So they don't even have this wasn't up to $29 trillion yet, but it shows some of the insane growth. And if you look at the amount of this that is being funded by currency creation, you have to go to this chart that I generated called collateralization of currency. So when the Fed buys a bond, they have to create the currency to buy it with, and that is collateralization of currency, memo items, total U.S. Treasury debt, agency debt, and mortgage-backed securities Wednesday level. So every Wednesday they report this. And what I find interesting when I look at this, there's a few other facts that stand out. It's now 8.379 trillion is where this graph is at. And that is up 1,540% since 2009. And last year, the increase was almost 23%. So remember this 23% number. The other numbers, 1,540%. These are mind-boggling numbers. But 23% in a single year is a very important number, and I'll get to that in a minute. And if you look at the rate of growth, I went to a compounding calculator, so you can ignore total interest and stuff like that. What I was interested in is what is the percent of annual growth. So from 2009, when it was 825 billion, to today's almost 10 times more at 8,377, more than 10 times more, 8,377 billion. It's an effective annual rate of 10.14% when it compounds out. So this is printing currency at that rate. So unless the economy grows at that rate or faster, this has to cause inflation. And we've had troubles with GDP growth recently, as you know. The collateralization of currency, though, like I said, just last year was 23%. So now I want to go to bank reserves because reserves of depository institutions, bank reserves, the Federal Reserve just gives it a more confusing name for everybody. And you can see that from the 1960s, when it was about $20 billion was all that the banks needed to do all of their interbank settlements and have the books still balanced at the end of the day, and nobody was insolvent, to a peak of about 60 billion and then back down to about 40 billion before the 2008 crisis. And then you see this tremendous explosion, and that explosion is now bank reserves, 4.188 trillion. So that is up 10,370% since 2007. And you know, these are sad. I can't help but laugh because I'm laughing at the stupidity of these arrogant economists that are steering the Federal Reserve and the economy and making all these choices for us. It's not possible for something like this to end well. This has to end badly someday. We just don't know what day that's going to be. But the more out of control this gets, so it's up. They've added 10,000% to it. It grew at 33.6% last year. So remember that figure. We've now got the collateralization of currency going up 23% last year. The bank reserves going up 33.6%. Now, bank reserves are so that the banks can do all of this interbank settlement at the end of the day, because basically every bank is sort of broke. They've already all got to loan each other and borrow currency from each other at the end of the day. And in 2019, you remember the repurchase agreements, the crisis in the repo markets. There was this giant crisis that was papered over. They wouldn't tell us what happened. Pamela and Russ Martinson have done a phenomenal job of investigative reporting on this.
Before we continue, help us clicking that YouTube like button and subscribe now to our channel. This shows the algorithm that you valued this information, and it helps us spread that message. Sharing is caring. And now, let's continue.
Do you want to know one thing about crypto? I made over 3000% in profit in a few weeks. Fact is, the traditional financial system, the traditional money system makes you poor, not rich. If you want to earn $500,000, $1 million, you have to wait until you're 50, 60, 70 in the traditional financial system, and you probably will still be broke. And you will be old. This is not a sexy combination, as you can imagine. But the question is, how can you start in crypto and make these profits? Where to invest? Where to start? My name is Gunnar and I'm from Germany, as you can hear, and things are a little bit different in Germany. More about that later on. Fact is, there are lots of different cryptocurrencies. It's a gigantic universe where beginners and professionals get easily lost. But there is light at the end of the tunnel. There are 7 key steps you need to follow to become successful in this market. You have to know them, and if you fail one of them, it's literally impossible to succeed in this market. Just an example, one of the key points is your exchange, and one of the biggest are, for example, Binance and Coinbase. These are trusted and well-established exchanges, but, and this is a big but, you won't find the super profitable coins on those exchanges. The unknown super profitable coins that get gigantic profits are not traded on those kind of exchanges. They are traded on much smaller insider platforms that are barely known. And I can tell you what those super secret exchanges are and why they are so profitable. And another super important thing are the right information sources. The point is, the internet is gigantic. There are hundreds and hundreds of YouTube channels, blogs, pages, and much more. And there are also market makers and influencers. For example, Elon Musk, he is not a crypto guy, but the moment he recommended Dogecoin, it went through the roof, to the moon, so to say. But why did he recommend it? Where did he hear it from? He didn't hear it from newspapers. And believe me, he is listening to someone. But you have to know who, and you have to react before he is reacting. This is really, really important. And these are only 2 of the 7 steps you have to follow in order to be successful in crypto. And if you want to know all of these steps in much more detail, and if you want to have a comprehensive checklist, here's what you should do. There is a link below this video. Click on this link and you will get the opportunity to subscribe to my channel. Click on the link and you will see a video where I explain the next steps. So see you soon. Click on the link now. I'll see you there.